Hi, welcome to The Sacred Journey. The Sacred Journey is the program that reminds you that life is a wonderful adventure and each and every experience we have is a unique and perfect opportunity for learning. I'm Joyce St. Germain and I am so excited about this program. Tools discovered on the path with my friend Bill Koval. Bill, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I've been excited about it, and I'm so grateful that you're going to do this. And our viewers are probably already looking around going, some things I've never seen before.
Well, thank you, Joyce. It's a good opportunity for me to be here, and appreciate you asking me to join you to talk about some of these devices that we've come together ourselves to create and see what they do.
And I want to let our viewers know there will be a part 1 and a part 2, so we'll get into different aspects of, and I'm going to let you explain what these are, but I also want to let the viewers know that you and I are kind of partners and friends, and we have this deep trust and respect for each other with a student-teacher, teacher-student relationship, and that has made this, I think, really grow and blossom because there's an open-mindedness and open-heartedness.
And acceptance, yes.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask you also to let people know a little bit about your background, because that says a lot about what you're doing here.
Okay. Well, I'm traditionally from an engineering background, mechanical engineering, and I did that for 35 odd years or so until I retired about 10 years ago. Other than that, I would say that my background is that I probably have a natural intuition on how things go together and how they work. And if a tool is needed for some aspect of a project or life, I have the ability to visualize that and then make it. So those are my gifts, I guess.
Okay, well those are very big gifts. It's not like, I have an imagination, because I've seen a lot of your work, both in furniture and restoration and this, what I call mind-blowing kinds of things. And we have this, which I'll invite you to explain, in the middle of the room in many of our classes. And nothing, and I have some pretty interesting things around here, nothing's ever garnered the amount of attention that this does. So, ball's in your court, Bill.
Okay.
What are we looking at here?
Well, let me start first by saying that all of these rings that you see in front of you were first developed by a gentleman called Slim Sperling. He was born in 1938 in South Dakota. He's had a storied history and really a very intelligent and enlightened person. You can find out more about him from a book that he wrote. I'll show you here is Sim Sperling's Universe. I guess don't say that 10 times fast. Anyway.
Wait a minute, Slim Sperling's Universe.
Right.
Okay, we're going to give information at the end of the show.
Yes, how this is
people
available.
can find this.
Yep.
Can find the information.
Yes, and this book explains much of what, or all of what we'll go into today, I think. But he spent a great deal of time working with other people in the metaphysical arena to develop these rings, and in 1991 was successful with his first one. And what they used it for primarily was to purify water, which we have on the table also today. But it has many more applications that we've been found out by various people over the years. What we have in the middle today is a pyramid, if you will, that I made for Joyce as a gift from a reading that she had done for me. And you'll see on it that there's 3 different sizes. Each one is developed based on sacred geometry. The center one being 1 cubit, top one 1/2 cubit, and the bottom one 1.5 cubits. Each one of these, because of the cubit size, in this case, vibrates to a frequency of 177 megahertz. And that's a little bit faster than the speed of what light vibrates at. But each of the rings creates what's called the tensor field within the confines of the space.
Now this is copper.
These are copper.
Are they always made of copper?
Yes.
Okay.
If mine are always made of copper, the ones that slim Sperling makes are made of copper. The difference being is that he also provides gold-plated and silver-plated rings if people want to pay more for them. In essence, they don't have any greater intrinsic power, but they look nicer, and they're nice and shiny.
And is there someone or an organization still carrying on his work? 'Cause
Yes.
I know he's passed it.
I believe it's called Lifelight Tools.
Okay.
They can be found on the internet. We'll give you that address also in the credits at the end. The other differences between the rings that are made by him and the ones that we put together is that I use solid copper balls or brass balls on here as amplifiers. The balls that they use are basically rolled metal material, and I add in crystals, but it could be crystals or stones onto the individual rings, and those we determine by meditation. In the case of this particular tree, if you will, or pyramid, it was something that I had a visualized making for a long time. Joyce gave me a great reason to make it. And the top ring represents the body in my mind. This is the mind and this is the spirit. And the thought I had when I created this was that the energy of the spirit encompasses both the mind and the body energies. But also this energy is focused on the top of the pyramid where we have the crystal situated, so that the energy developed by each ring, which by the way is a column of light that goes in each direction from the center out. And within the ring there is a thin band of energy. If you visualized a soap bubble when you're blowing rings, that's what that energy within the center of the ring looks like or represents. So that's a neutral energy. It's not positive or negative, but it only enhances the energy of the light going downward and upward. Now, when I showed this to you the first time, I believe that what you had seen was a toroidal energy field around this whole device, which basically is like a donut shape.
Right, I saw the energy coming up and then around in all directions.
Toroidal, yep.
I didn't know that word because I don't have an engineering background.
So anyway, which is super as far as I'm concerned. That energy field that's produced in here is, in many cases, people believe that it's a limitless energy field, in that it draws its energy from what's around it. And it creates within that area a disruption in the time, space, and magnetic effects that apply to physics. So that anything that enters the field is changed in a positive manner. In that if it's a chaotic system, it brings order to that area. So that if it's used on water like we have in the jar here, it basically excites the minerals that are in the water and changes the molecular structure of the water and that which is in it. Now this happens almost simultaneous when you pour the water through the ring. If you leave the ring on the jar or the water container for a long period of time, it'll only enhance it.
Okay, which is what I do. I usually have this, and it's glass, not plastic, because I thought that was important. So ceramic, glass. How about metal? A pitcher rather than glass.
Don't see a reason why not, because I have one on my faucet.
Okay. Oh, you have a ring on your faucet?
I have rings on all my faucets.
That's pretty interesting there, Bill. I'm going to have to examine that a little bit more and think about that. And I also want to let people know that we don't always keep this all together. We sometimes take rings off and use them. I want to be sure the viewer understands. This is a working... The word tool just doesn't even say enough. I don't have a noun.
I don't think we've explored all the possibilities for it. There's more to this, is that the stand that it's on is made of 3 different woods. One is birch, one is maple, and one is oak. those three woods also represent different genders in nature, in that the oak is a male gender, the birch is a female, and the maple is a male-female gender. So there's energies associated with the stand, and the fact, and also that this angle that's on here is the angle of the Great Pyramids. So we've tried to incorporate some very sacred geometry in both in the rings and in the stand to bring to the energy of the whole device. And in addition to that, as you can see, there's crystals on each of the rings. These were selected specifically for Joyce. And in our workshops, we do things so that people understand what crystals might be beneficial for them on the ring that they would like to create.
Yeah, we have had a workshop here where you were very gracious with your time and expertise and experience, and we did, I'll show some photos in either this show or the next show. I don't think I've ever seen people so excited about the possibility and the potential. So not so much about the finished object, but about the unlimited possibilities and potential. Because people will sometimes, when we have this sitting on the floor, take it off, put it on their arm, put it around their neck, put it on their head. I have my pendulum, one of my pendulums under it. I have other stones and crystals. Sometimes between readings, I might put my cards under here. I mean, it's
And if someone wanted to energize one of their crystals that they had, they could put it on these small platforms at the center of each of these different rings, depending on what they felt they needed help with their body, mind, or spirit.
Now, you designed this
Yes.
tree shape, so that isn't something that someone will find in Slim's work.
No, no,
That's in Bill's
whatever.
kind of mind and
Right. So, one of the things that I thought of when I created this for you was that if you were ever to use it toward doing readings on individuals, to have them take the rings off and then put them on the way that they felt they were needed. And depending on whether the kyanite crystal was between a male and female, or a female and male, or closer to one or the other, or in relationship to where the other stones were in there, what kind of energy does that bring to your reading for that person? So I know we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought that far in, I just kind of invite people to do this, and I think I might have not even scratched the surface of the medicines or properties of the wood and where they are in relationship to the stones.
Most of the properties of wood come from Celtic lore and beliefs, Celtic and Druid.
Yeah, and I use the Native American and the shamanic medicines.
So that said, with the rings, I should mention that when I got my start on the rings, a little more of my background, from my brother-in-law, who he and I have spent many lifetimes together, I believe, and hopefully I've taught him as much as he's taught me over the years. And I really got my start in the metaphysical as a result of my wife's influence of 46 years.
That's quite an influence.
Yeah, and thankfully it's all been in a positive direction.
Well, when I first saw this, I'm pretty sure I was speechless, and people that know me go, not possible, but I think I was. If I had any words, it was probably wow, wow, wow. It's an extraordinary thing to see, but to feel is even amazing. And we have another engineering kind of minded man in one of our, actually two of our groups. At the end of a workshop, he said, I have to tell you, it was sitting in the middle. It was the first time I introduced it to one of the study groups. He goes, I have to say, that is the most amazing thing I've ever seen besides fire. And I'm thinking, wow, fire and tensor ring devices, wow. And he's still intrigued and amazed. And
he's an amazing man as well.
And to think that this appeals to people from non-engineering backgrounds, like myself, who have maybe energy backgrounds or abstract thinking backgrounds. And I know we've only scratched the surface, so, I mean, I use the water that's in a ring for drinking. If for a wound, I might put a compress. It can be used for animals. And sometimes, if I'm working with a client who's taking medication and might be having some side effects, or just taking medication, if they have it with them, we might put it under here and ask for only the highest and greatest blessings of that medication for it to work in its ideal way, to take on the... There's something about this, in my clumsy way, I'll try to explain it because I'm not an engineer. To me, it's about perfect balance. Balance of what is, what isn't, of shape and space, of, you know, the space in between, and I can't describe, which is fine with me that I can't describe, I just kind of feel.
Yeah, I think what you're relating it to is the sacred geometry, because the sacred geometry is going to much, if not all, of what's here, including the crystals that you have on the top. So it all feels like it belongs to each other. And from my standpoint, I can't see the things that you have seen, but I can certainly feel the energy that's around it, and I'm sure other people can as well. Interesting story is my daughter is quite talented.
She is.
And when I was first making this thing, I wasn't sure of one, because my only knowledge of whether I made a successful one or not was to put my hand through it and see if I felt an energy change. I give it to her and she just looks at it, holds it up, and she says, yeah, it's a good one or it's not a good one.
That's Allison.
That's Allison. But even now, I can hold one up and hold it sideways and look at it and see the energy that emanates from the ring. And if I look through it, I can see a difference in the view as far as clarity goes on a distant object. I think we've kind of demonstrated.
We've done that in class where we've held it up. I'm sure the camera won't translate this, but we've held it up, looked through it, looked at the same thing, the same scene without it, looked at, it's different. I don't know how to say that it's different. And what I know on crystals and stones, I change. I might put a hematite sphere or copper or something. And I love these because everybody can bring their own previous knowledge or their previous experience or understandings into it and apply them. Like we have people who are Reiki practitioners that use their rings along with some of their Reiki practices. Somebody who's an artist could use it for that. It's remarkable.
Speaking of that, the smaller rings, the half cubit rings, easily fit on a person's wrist. And when you do that, if you're a healer that uses energy, that simple act of putting it on there increases your energy output supposedly like 400 times what you would normally do. So the amount of energy that you can transmit to somebody that you're trying to give healing energy, pass healing energy from above through yourself to them increases significantly.
And just what we know about science, we know that copper's a
Yes.
transmitter. I mean, we know about some things that make sense on a scientific level, but we also know, air quotes, know about some other things. So this is the same size as that.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So if you were to put those on one on each hand and did a healing, you would increase your energy that you're passing through yourself and into the person that needs it.
Or by putting it even on the left hand, your receiving side with the intention still matters.
Intention's a big deal with these. Yes.
Yeah, it is. And with the intention of receiving magnified energy. And again, my training is most of the time it can be switched. Energy comes in the left and out the right. So this would be my receiving, this would be my sending. So I would use it different ways. And this isn't big enough to go around water, but it's big enough to, if I put the lid on, to do that, or to, you know, somehow do that.
Or just even underneath it would do the same thing, if you could balance it on the 3 balls.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But those fit ideally over a faucet.
And when you do the twisting, you make sure that when it's soldered back together, the spiral never
That's correct.
ends.
Yeah,
Remember that.
There's 2 important things when you're making a ring. One is that the wires are twisted in a clockwise direction, for starters. That verifies or ensures that we produce positive energy from both sides. If you get into Slim's book, you'll find that they did a lot of experiments with single wires that were not always successful, which made him, or got him to get into the spiral ring concept, which made it positive and very good. And the other thing is the length of the ring, having to be a multiple of a cubit. And now there's many different cubits. The ones that these rings are based on are two that I use primarily. One's called a sacred cubit, and the second one is called a lost cubit. The sacred cubit vibrates at 144 megahertz, which is the same vibrational amount as light energy, and the other one is the 177, which I mentioned before, which is higher than light. Regardless of the size of the ring, as long as it's a multiple of that cubit, it'll vibrate at that frequency.
So this, and this, they're different lengths, but they have the same ratio?
Yeah, they have the same, yeah, they're same ratios. So they all vibrate at 177 megahertz.
Is there too much energy ever for this? As in, would it be difficult to sleep? Could you place these under the mattress, or or is there so much energy? Would it either affect your dreams positively, or would it make it impossible to sleep?
This is why the generic ring like that, which has the balls on it only, okay, and the amplifiers, won't produce too much energy or won't do anything. It's generically producing that light energy in both directions, amplified by the balls on the perimeter. So interesting, the ring that I brought today, in answer to that question, has 3 stones on it. One is apatite, one is unakite, and the other is fluorite. Now, this ring I made specifically for myself to help balance my energies in my body, mind, and spirit. And when I gave it to my daughter to QA, if you will, it immediately gave her a headache because it was just the wrong energy for her. I find it very calming, but from her standpoint, no. So I think this is why it's important when you're developing these rings with stones on them that you do the reading, do the understanding of what the person needs and how that stone is going to benefit them going forward.
Okay, what's really interesting, as I'm holding it, I have a headache. Mm-hmm. I did not have a headache moments ago. It's possible, number one, that it's just balanced for you, or that it's much more of a masculine energy than feminine, because that's the one thing Alice and I have in common is gender. So I'm going to put this down. My wife doesn't like it either. So. No, okay then. Very, very interesting. We have only a couple minutes left for show 1.
Okay.
Have no fear, we have another show coming up with even more amazing things that Bill has created. What do you want to be sure that our viewers take away from this part 1 that will make them want to learn more or understand better?
Well, I think there's a ring suited for everybody. Whether they try to do something themselves with a workshop with us, or they go to Slim Sperling's website and purchase items that they have. I have no affiliation with them, just saying that that's the source of this stuff. That will give them benefits in their life. It'll bring beneficial things to them, and they're to be used to explore the path.
Okay, great way to put it. What I love about them, I don't think we'll ever totally understand everything about them, and that is so exciting to me. So thank you so much for sharing, and we're going to do another show. And thanks for joining us on The Sacred Journey. We'll catch you next time.